Live from Denver 7, this is 7 News.
And spring is here. That means your yard needs attention, and what you do now can really make a difference for the rest of the season. Joining us this morning is Scott Fritchie from Associated Landscape Contractors of Colorado. Scott, thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
Good morning. So first, let's talk about this big tool you have here. I know there are 4 things that we really should focus on this time of year.
Sure. Well, April is National Lawn Care Month, so we thought we would, first thing we need to do is do a core aeration to your yard. So what this is an aerator, and you can see these tines down below, and what they do is not only do they poke holes into the ground, but they pull out a core sample of grass and soil out. What that does is that relieves the soil compaction, but it also opens up the ground so that water, moisture, nutrients can get deep down into the soil to promote good root growth.
And that's obviously an important thing to do because year after year, everything gets so compact.
Yes, exactly.
Hard for the moisture to seep into the ground.
Yep, and you know, it's great to do. A couple things you can do before you run this machine is make sure that the ground is good and soaked. So you want to, turn your sprinkler system on or water your yard in very well before you run this, because you want to pull as deep as core as possible so we can get that water deep into the ground. Usually about 1.5 inches to 2 inches is what we're looking for.
Good to know. Now, if this is something you want to do yourself, can you rent a machine like this somewhere?
Yeah, you can rent it from a rental yard. You can hire a landscape contractor to come out and do it for you as well.
And how much does that usually cost?
It all depends. $40 or something like that.
Okay.
So
not too bad, but an important step. Yeah. So what's step number 2? After you do the aeration, you've already turned the water on too.
Sure. We want to look at putting down a Preemergent. And what that's going to do this time of year, the crabgrass is starting to go to seed. So what I like to say, how that works is it creates a vapor barrier across the soil. So as the seeds come up, they'll get killed off. And really all a Preemergent does is just prevent it from going to seed and growing further.
So a Preemergent, for somebody like me in layman's terms, is that like weed and feed, or is that a weed killer of some sort?
It's like a weed killer. Okay. Yes, it can come in a form of with fertilizers, or you can buy it separately as well. And the third step you want to do is do a fertilization. So, and there's a multitude of fertilizers out there. And I always recommend going to an Ace Hardware or your local nursery center. They're going to, give you a recommendation based on the square footage that you have, and the type of soils and so on and so forth. But there are always, on every bag of fertilizer, there's 3 numbers, sometimes 4, that are on there. And those can be a little confusing, but the first number is always going to be your nitrogen. Okay. That's going to give you the good green growth. The second one's the potash. That's going to help prevent the disease in the grass. And the third is the potassium. Okay. I'm sorry, it's the phosphates. That's going to give good root growth. The fourth number is going to be an iron. That gives a good green, deep green color to the grass. And it's also important to note that with when you put down like a granular fertilizer, before you water it in, brush off your sidewalks with a broom. Oh, good idea. Yeah, or blow them off, because if not, once it gets wet, it could leave that rust stain on your concrete. All right, and the final step really at this time of year as far as getting your lawn prepared is mowing. And I know you had a couple of tips as far as how high to mow the grass or how low to go. Sure. For the first cut of season, I always like to recommend go low. That way you can break up some of the aeration core plugs that we've had. And it's really important after that, sharpen your mower blade afterwards. You want to keep your mower blade good and sharp throughout the season as well. It'll just help promote healthy grass. And do you want to take that into, like you said, an Ace Hardware or Sears or wherever you've got your lawnmower for them to sharpen the blade? Yeah, they can do it, or you can do it yourself. Just make sure you practice good, safe use with equipment as well. Great. The other thing I'd like to also recommend is we always like to say mulching is very good. It's a good sustainable practice, and what that means is instead of bagging up all those nutrients, the fertilizers that you just put down, the moisture, go ahead and mulch it up and let it get ground up and go right back down into the ground. All right. So we've got a lot of information on our website. Absolutely. ALCC.com. And while you're there, you can also sign up for the tip of the week. All right. Scott Fritchie, thank you for coming in. We really appreciate that advice. And you can log on to our website at thedenverchannel.com. Click on that big red TV button, and we will link you to that website that Scott just mentioned.